Good evening. This is Dr. Bill White again with the American Orthodontic Society, and I want to talk to you this afternoon about some mechanics for dealing with virtually any impacted tooth. And I came up with this several years ago just out of pure necessity. I tried every way in the world to get force on these impacted teeth and get it going in the direction I wanted it, and to know exactly how much force I had, and I wanted it to be virtually the same after 2 or 3 weeks as it was to start with. And so I came up with this method of dealing with these impacted teeth, and it really works. Now, I've talked about it earlier here, but it didn't seem that people caught on to it. But if you really look at it, it's not as complicated as you might think. But once you use it and start pulling teeth in with it and pulling impactions, I don't think you'll use anything else. I certainly haven't. And you can mix it with elastics and stuff of this nature. So it takes me a while to go through this video, so I'm going to get started on it, and we just jump right into the middle of it. And what it is, I'm showing it to you, and then we'll show you methods of getting to it later on. Now, this is a closed coil spring, and we have a deal of it's got a 036 lumen to it, and the spring is 10 thousandths in size, the wire itself. And we usually cut something about this long that's still while it's closed up, then we open the ends of it. I'll show you how we do that. And we tie a wire, a 10 thousandths soft stainless steel wire to one end. Just put one little knot in it, and that keeps it there. And we tie the spring behind the last molars you have banded up here, and then pull it around and run dental floss through the other end, and then double it and come back and hook it on a hook that we make. I like to make my own hooks here, and we twist 014, that's a point, 014 or 14,000 soft stainless steel wire around the neck of something to bond onto it. You can use one of these little single brackets, or you can put a little button-like deal with a thing to stick onto the tooth, and you can make this thing as long as you want to, and you can put it up on an impacted tooth, down in a hole even, and you make it shaped and just design the shape to fit down in the hole where it's coming out. And you can hook this is a wax dental floss we'll hook to the little hook you make in that. And as this tooth gets closer to this point, you take this off, cut it, bend another, just bend it up again. And when you get real far up here, you just take this off and put your dental floss around the button like that. Now, you won't absorb all that right now, but we're going to enlarge on that as we go along here. Now here you can run this where you can you can pull this with a Doctor's gauge and have, say, about 12 or 13, 14 ounces of pressure. You pull this spring up to this point and say, I want to use 14 ounces of pressure on this tooth, and that's a lot. And you pull it up with a Doctor's gauge, you mark where it is, and now you put this dental floss in there and run one strand back and hook it and have come out here. We'll show you how to do that in just a few minutes here. And in this video, here we are. We have his chain on that, wrapped it around, and while you've got the dental floss in the end of this, we come over it and hook it here, and then we bring the floss around underneath there and pull that through and hook it like that. Now this doesn't go over the arch wire, you see. It's just pulling, so it'll turn that tooth. Now we've got a whole video on that, so you can look at that separately later. Alright, here is showing it going up in the in the pallet, you know, and we put this hook. Now this is 14,000 soft stainless steel wire, and you can twist it around there and you can make a hook like that, and you can put about 5 pounds of force on that hook before it'll straighten out. And then as this gets close over here, you cut that and make it shorter, and then you just take it off and you hook your your dental floss onto the bracket here and pull it on up, and then as soon as you can, you get onto that tooth and start turning it to put it into place here. And I've pulled in all kinds of impacted teeth, and I haven't found an impacted tooth that we couldn't bring into the mouth. And I've done several that were ankylosed. In fact, that's how I came up fixing this. Came up with this several years ago. Had a case that had 2 impacted cuspids up here in the roof of the mouth, and they were ankylosed. And I had a oral surgeon break them loose, and we wanted to put a constant pressure on them, so we kind of designed this deal. Now, let's get on. We got a lot of pictures to show you here, enough to show. Now, we take open coil spring and spin it onto the arch wire here, you see, and you come right here and just make this spin. It'll go right around that point where you put your circle. Now you put your circle in the arch wire going where you want to bring this tooth, and you could change it some, and if you want to open this wider, you put more of it over here and less over here, and it'll slide this back, and you can change the direction of the tooth, and you keep a constant pressure on that tooth with this spring. Now when you use elastics to help out in doing this, then the elastic changes and you have to depend on people to hook them up. But you don't have to depend on them to do anything here. Just leave it alone and it'll do its job. But I still use some elastic sometimes. Okay. Pardon me. Now, here we go. And there's the impacted tooth that's on the outside, you see, and the other one is from the palate. This is a buccal impaction, and we put this, you just make an arch wire, and where you want it to go to, you make a little loop like that and come over here. Now you take this spring and you spin it on there. You can spin it on after it's in the mouth if you want to. It's a little easier to do it before you put the arch wire in there. And then you come right across it. You don't cut it, anything, and just spin it on up to this side. And you can open this space while you're pulling the tooth to it. And that's another neat thing that we add to this. And you be sure you've got the center of your arch wire marked, and get back over here. I didn't put any omegas over here to hold it there, but I got a little dog leg in the arch wire right there that holds it pretty well. Now let's go. That one's on the inside, up in the palate, and we put a bracket or something on there, and then I twisted this little wire. Now, if this tooth is buried down here in the hole, you can twist this wire before you bond it on, and you've got to dry that out in there and etch it, and then bond it to this tooth down in the hole, and you have this twisted hook coming up out of the hole and hook onto it there. And as you pull that toward this circle you've got in it, it touches there, you got to stop and cut it off. And then you take an optical plier and just you cut it, and you just put that optical plier on there with the little round part here and the cupped part here, and you twist that. You'll just mash it and mash it again, and you can put a hook on the end of it, of this twisted wire. Then you pull it over here if you want to shorten it again, and when you get this part of the hook right up here against it, you just take the whole thing off and put the dental floss around the button and pull it on in to the rest of the way. And I've not found a tooth yet that we couldn't get in. If I could get to the tooth and put a hook on it, and I like to bond my own hooks, and if I send them off to a surgeon, invariably they'll put one of these little gold chains on the thing, and you can't hook on to them very good. You can tie on to them and thread the stuff through the chain, but it's a mess, and you can't hook elastic to it unless you had a hook built to hook in the chain. So I like to use the twisted 14,000 soft stainless steel wire. And so if you don't have any of that, you can get a spool of it. That's 014, and that's 14 thousandths, and I get 3 spools of this. I have an 012 or 12 thousandths, and then here we have a 10 thousandths wire, which we do all the ligature into teeth and stuff, and that's a 10 thousandths. And we have a spool of this, and a spool of that, and we can make. These are 14 thousandths. Our tiebacks usually are 12 thousandths. What we just ligature, if we ligature the brackets to really hold on tight, we'll do that with a 10 thousandths usually, or we can use a 12 thousandths. It's not that big a deal. All right, now let's go to another. Now this is the spring material that we use. It's used Unitex 10 thousandths wire, and the lumen in the spring is 36 thousandths, you see. And that has a pretty good opening in it. Now we can stick a gerback plier or something pointed and bend it down, and we can turn about 2 or 3 rungs of the chain of the spring out, so it kind of looks like that after you take it out. This one will do the same thing back here, and it's where you're going to tie it to the molar. We take a 10 thousandths wire and just run through there, and you can take it and just tie one little simple knot in and pull it down, and then it'll stay right there. Then I hook that on the back of the molar, and this is where we get the force right here. Now we're going to measure this when we go in the tooth, in the mouth, and we'll use a Doctrix gauge to measure it with. So here I think we've got a plier here, a small tip on it, and we stick it in about 2 or 3 rungs of that, and we'll bend that out, and you end up with that one's not bent very far. Now this is more like we use right here, but if you want, you can either bend. I like to get at least 2 rungs out here, and then we put that 10 thousandths wire in one end, and then we're going to run the dental floss in the other end. Now this is waxed dental floss, and it can go around corners, and you can put pressure on it, and it's got very little resistance going around the corner. So when you're pulling this way with, say, 12 ounces of force, you get almost 12 ounces of force coming the other way. I mean, bringing that tooth around to that circle I'll show that later. Okay. All right. Here we take this 1,000th, and you could use a 12,000th if you wanted to, but 10,000th soft stainless steel wire to put it on. Then you just put one knot in it and pull it down, and then that's where you tie this at the back of the molar, or where you got a bracket on it. So you tie it where the wire is wrapped the spring, and then when you pull the spring forward, it's coming from here all the way back to where you're going to go with the spring, and then that's where you put the floss in like that. Now that's waxed dental floss. Now here we've got this little one knot. Just twist it once and pull it up there, and you tie that to the back of the molar, and here the dental floss is in the other end. All right, we come in and tie this to the back of this molar over here, and then we're going to pull this up, and really we pull this with a Dontrix gauge. And let me show you the Dontrix gauge. Now there it is tied. This is the back of the molar. It's tied right here, twisted up over here. Then we fold this spring over and bring it back forward like that, and stretch it from the back. Now this is a Dontrix gauge, and you ought to have one of these things in your office. You don't need but one, but you need one. Now you push, and tells you how much you're pushing over here. Now every one of these rungs is an ounce of force. Now then you get over here and you have a double rings here. That's 4 ounces. And over here's 8 ounces. And here would be 12 ounces. And if you went to the end of it, it'd be 16 ounces, or it weighed a pound. And you pull from the other end, and I'll show the thing, I think, here. All right, there's the pushing in, and as you push, this goes in. If you have it here, you're pushing with 4 ounces of force, see, and you can push up to here is 16 ounces of force there. And so now the other end is where you pull the spring. Now hook that in that circle I've got in that spring, and pull it to whatever force you want to use on this particular tooth, and it'll be that force, and it'll give a little bit over 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever you wait to see. You better, I'd like to see them in 2 weeks, because things move when you put a constant force on them, and that's what this will be. It'll be a constant force, and if you putting 12 ounces of force on there, you're going to get just about 12 ounces on that tooth, pulling it one way, and you're pulling back the other direction with your spring, you see, and it goes around this corner with very little friction, and you can tell you get it. The amount of force you want, the direction you want, and you want the force to continue, and it does. It'll be darn near the same thing later on, and it goes in the direction you want it, and that's 3 of the things you really want. And you go in there, and then we put that spring in the gap and open the gap, and we can direct it to where you want it, and you've got all the force. So there's a whole bunch of things there that are things you want in the force you put on these impacted teeth. And I've not found a tooth yet that I couldn't pull in if I could get to it. If you get to the crown and try to bond something as close to the tip of the crown as you can, because you want to pull it from the tip. Now here we've got this Dontrix gauge, you see, pulling in here, and I hook this spring about here, and I see we've got 4, 8, and this is 12 ounces, and probably over here maybe 14 ounces of force. And I know if I put this, I'm going to pull this, let this spring go back and put the dental floss in it, and when I pull it to this point, it'll have 14 ounces of force, and you go through this and put your dental floss on here and come back out and take the other strand here, and now we're going to tie a knot in that right there and hold that spring right at that point. And this has 14 ounces, and it'll have darn near 14 ounces right up here. Now, as this pulls this down, this is raising these teeth up, and you've got 14 ounces of force back here at the back of pushing this maxilla forward. And if you've got a class 3 case, you want to do it all with this, because it'll make the maxillary teeth go to the front out here, just pulling on this, and then this pulls it down and holds that up in there. So there's a lot of good virtuous things about it. Now here's the little open coil spring that we put on there, and we're opening this gap while we're pulling this tooth down. So we definitely want the gap a little bigger than the tooth when it comes in there, so you don't want any friction on the tooth dragging the side of it. And when you get it in there, then you can close it back against the tooth when you get it rotated and everything like that. Now let's get on to another video. Right here is how we hook that in there. We're kind of going backwards here, looks like. Now this is the open coil spring, and if you want to, if you're pulling across here and it hits the tissue, you can put a little stalk on this and put your deal down lower and pull over there so your floss doesn't hit on the tissue going to the tooth. Now here there wouldn't be any problem. We're just going to go up and hook on that and come down and come out, tie that to there. Now I change that dental floss about every 3 or 4 weeks. When they come in, it'll be pretty cruddy looking, and you just take it off and put some more of dental floss on it and run one branch of this dental floss. We double it and go in like this, and come back out, and you hook this over this hook, and you've got this going back here and the other over here, and you bring these out and make a triple knot. I run the floss through twice and pull the knot down, but I pull on it, and when it gets the amount of force I want it to have, I stop it right there and tie the knot right there. And then this is doubled and floss going in and coming back to that. And this is the best blooming way. Even if I did make it, I mean, you can put exactly what force you feel you got to have on this particular tooth on it, and it'll be the same force 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. The only thing is the tooth comes down, it shortens this spring, and you lose some of your force that way. But you lose very little with the friction of the waxed floss going from here up to there, back to that position. And you look at this and think, oh God, I can't do that. But if you do this once on an impacted tooth, I don't think you'll use anything else. You got to bond this thing onto the tooth, and I use the little wire hooks on them, but I can send them to an oral surgeon, and they'll put one of those darn gold chains on them and charge a big price for it. And the gold chains are hard to hook on there, and I can come in with elastics on top of this too. So let's get on to something else. There's a lot of videos here, and we've already been in here about 25 minutes. And so there we are hooked down, and you can add an elastic to it if you want to. Now, if you've got a bad class 2 and you got impactions, it's pretty good to use elastics to come up and hook on this, because the elastic pulls the lower jaw forward while it's pulling this down. So that, but I still use this and just use some class 2 elastics on it. Can do the same thing. All right, here we are. We've well, we want to measure the elastic. You look at this, and I'm going to drop it under there. Now, how far is it from there to there? And you want to run this elastic, and you pull it out here and see how much your Doesnt gauge says. And then that's, if you pull that elastic under there and reach up and underneath here and hook it, you have to do it with some dental floss or something and hook it up. But the elastic, you're depending on the person doing it and putting it in and taking it out and doing all this. But when you put this on there, they don't have to touch it. They don't have to do anything with it. Just don't tear it up. I've had people that tore them up too. But anyway, you do that, and I can almost guarantee you they'll come in. And you put that force on there, and if that tooth doesn't move and these teeth start moving up, that blooming thing is ankylosed. So you got to send somebody in there or go in there yourself or whatever and take elevators and crack the thing loose. Now, don't get it too loose, and you don't put too much pressure on it or you'll pull the tooth. If you crack it too much and put a lot of pressure, you'll have the tooth will be down here, and that's not what you want. You want to bring that tooth down slowly, and so the nerve and the blood vessel and all the things keeping that tooth alive come down with it, and you don't kill the tooth. If you just have a gentle force on when you've cracked loose, if you can get it just to move a little bit, it doesn't attach with hard solid bone. Like if you can crack one loose, if you don't move it in a few days, it'll be attached again. It's not too hard to break loose, but you have to deal with that and take a chance with it. But if you can't get it out and you can't do something with it, impaction, you need to remove it anyway. So anyway, you're not, if you lose the ankylosed tooth, it's not the worst thing in the world. You would, if you can't crack it a little bit and then move it with a gentle force to get it in. But I've not had any of them pull any of them, anything like that. So I've done a lot of them too. And so here we go, coming in with elastic down here and going up to this tooth. You see, we're pulling it down that way, and then the spring over here, that looks like that's got about 12 or 14 ounces of force going in here and back to this tooth. So that tooth will move. I'll tell you, if it doesn't move in 2 or 3 weeks, you've got an ankylosed tooth. If you put that force on it, and that's, you can put more than that. I had one time I had to put 2 springs on it, and it wasn't, it was just a hard bone. This person had the hardest bone, and their teeth just didn't want to start. So I had a job pulling in. The tooth was not ankylosed because it moved, but it moved very slowly. All right, here we've got the spring pressure and the elastic pressure all at the same time. Now here we'll show you how we do. Now this dental floss is going in your spring. Your spring's tied way back here on the molar, and then you take this branch that's underneath here, is to be coming out like that. Now this one right here, we doubled and we ran it through the hole. Now you're going to take it and open that deal up and hook it over this, and it'll be pulling down from there to here. And now you take this arm of the floss and this arm down here. Now this arm here is one of that, and so you'll end up with the 2 of them. I'll show you a little bit. Maybe you be simpler to understand there. And then I tie a triple knot in that floss. Now let me go to the, well, that's just showing one going to the inside and one to the outside, and elastics on both of them. If you want to really get with them, you can do that. But I have trouble getting people to put the elastics on, and so with the spring you can do it all if you want to. So I'm going to go to the next. Now here is the spring, and we're going to put put a dental floss in this and come out like this, and then take this part and come over and double it and go up through here. And then we'll take this and hook it over this hook, and I'll take these two deals, and I've already measured, so I want to pull this spring to about here, say, to get 12 ounces of force, and I'll take these two ends of the dental floss and tie that, and as I keep pulling on it, it'll pull that spring right out to that point, and then I'll tie the knot down there, and I know I've got virtually 12 ounces on this tooth right here, and that floss going through here has very little friction, and so there'll be that much coming down, and there'll be the whole thing coming forward in here. It'll be, if this is 12 ounces, it'll be pulling these teeth forward with 12 ounces of force. If you have one on both sides, you can pull in you can take a class 3 case and correct it if it's got a couple of impacted teeth like that. Alright, now we'll get over here. Now you understand what I've done. There's this deal here going out, going up around that and coming out, and I've tied 3 loops in it, and this part here is part of it. And so as I tie that knot and tighten it, and I want to drag it up here to somewhere that I've marked where the pressure on this spring will be where I wanted it. Right, he says, I don't know where I marked it on here, but I'll go in. So the next one, we tied this knot, we brought it right to there. I tie that down, and then take another one and tie it, and tie another one on that wax floss. I do not want that to come undone there. This dental floss is stout though, and you tie it good, and say that's got 12 ounces of force right there. And I will guarantee you 4 weeks from now, if you come in here, this hook may be down here, and it will reduce down by the tooth moving here and this getting shorter. So this, if this hook goes there and it's got this, then the hook will be back here somewhere, and you won't have the 12 ounces of force on it, but the tooth is moving. And then you can come in and redo it, and if you're getting real close to this button, I take this thing off and put the floss over the button, and I pull it on in the rest of the way to the button. When the button gets down here, that's as far as you can go with it, and that's good enough, because we usually got it where we can stick a bracket on it where we want it, and we'll pull it to the arch wire then. So you can do this, and you just have to try it. I've got it in pictures and telling you and drawing it out and everything. And I came up with this and out of pure necessity. I had a man with 2 ankylosed cuspids up in the roof of the mouth, and I had a job, and I finally figured out how I could get the force on them to get them through. Now there it is, and when that little hook gets down here, then you've got to take it off, and then you run the floss around the button up there and pull it on the rest of the way. When this button gets there, that's it. So you've got to come in and put a bracket on the tooth, or try to uncover it maybe a little more where you can see it, and maybe run a sectional flexible wire. But this will be right down here somewhere, so it may be where you can just hook it into a heavier arch wire, and that's what I like to do. And then you frequently you have to where you hook it into a regular arch wire, you'll have to put some pressure on it to get it in there. Now here, if this tooth, you're pushing it over here and the root's going back this way, and you want to line the root up, you just come to this wire, go down a little bit, come up here, and now you hook this in here, and it'll take this root, and it'll be coming straight off from this instead of this, you see. So you can put that root exactly where you want it, and you can do this with bonded attachments on the teeth. And so help me, if you could do that with Invisalign, I want to see you do it. And you cannot really do comprehensive orthodontics, but you can straighten out a few front teeth up there a lot of times. And I've taken a couple of courses in it, and I've done some Invisalign, and I always ended up at the end putting some brackets on and tell them I can finish this in 2 or 3 months, but with the way we were going, it's going to take a lot longer. And so it does get people in your practice. That's one virtue of it. All right, there it is, like that. And there we've got that, and those teeth come on in. Now there's the doubled end of that thing, and go in, hook, and coming out, and we take this part and this part and tie that and pull that spring. The spring will be out over here somewhere, and you pull that spring all the way up to where you marked it, where you wanted the force to be. Now there we are, and we're going to tie the knot back in here somewhere and slide it down, and this part will be the same, but it'll pull this leg up here and bring this up where you want it, and you tie the knot there, and I'll guarantee you that pressure that's on this tooth will be virtually the same 2, 3, or 4 weeks away, except if this tooth moves this way, then this tie is going to move this way, and then that reduces your pressure. But you got the thing moving, and you don't need that much pressure then. So you go ahead with it. All right, hope you'll venture out here and try to use that. But honest to God, this is the best way I've ever found to bring impacted teeth into the mouth. Now I'm going to come back and do a bunch of impacted teeth and show you using this, and also other ways that we used before I came up with this idea. But I think this is worth you looking into and trying to do it. It's not as complicated as you think. Looking at this, and you're this fresh into orthodontics, you wonder what the devil I'm getting into. But you can do this. See, now I pull that up, tie that knot, tie another one, and tie another one, and then I cut that stuff off here, and then it gets frayed up and gets food in it and stuff like that. But that stuff is tough. I mean, you can't hardly pull it in two. And so it'll bring this tooth right on in. And if I want to hook an elastic to it, or if I want to move this arch wire back a little bit, maybe, and make the direction change some, well, I can alter it however I want to in there. And so I hope you will venture out and try using this. And there we're coming through with it. Another one, that's another case of it. And here's one we've used these little tiny brackets work good, or lingual buttons, you bond on there, work very good too. And this is using elastic and everything. I think we've covered most all of this. And here these TP company that makes these little hooks that you can make class 2 hooks out of them, and just stick them in. This is soft and you can bend it over, and you have the hook on the bottom of the arch or on the above the brackets. It's better if you put them below and keep the rectangle that you're using class 2 so that you don't pull so far. Now if you have this triangles like that, then your vertical pressure is more, and you pull your teeth down with elastics, and you don't want to do that usually. So I put them hanging down below, and so you get those, and that's what we use, hook the elastic underneath there for these teeth. And there they come in a little box stuck in the wax. And that's the end of this. And I appreciate you watching it. And I hope, and we've taken 41 minutes, and I'm going to say goodbye or good night and close it out. And I hope you'll join our group here and subscribe to our channel. So thank you, and we'll close this out.